they should. Keep them on their toes.
Yeah, I don't be say, I mean, my greatest hope is that AOC is coming back.
Oh, God, I hope so.
I do too.
I was hoping that Buttigieg was going to run for Senate. Oh, my gosh. Could you imagine how much he'd lose by?
What is this meeting called? What is the proper term?
It's the House Oversight Subcommittee on Weaponization State Justice. Kind of a mouthful.
We'll see. I'm hoping for a good 2026.
House Oversight Subcommittee.
Carl, did you come on your own?
No, I came with my bros.
Okay.
Good morning. The Oversight Subcommittee on Weaponization State Government will come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll for today's attendance?
Wolford.
Here.
Wahutsky.
Here.
Wagella.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have 5 members present. You do have a quorum.
Thank you. Representative Schreiber moves to adopt the minutes from the March 19th meeting. Hearing no objection, the minutes are adopted. Good morning. Today we are here to discuss the state's prosecution of 2 great Michiganders, Carl Mankey of Owasso and Marlena Hackney of Holland. Both individuals were unjustly prosecuted during the 2020 emergency lockdowns, which were ruled unconstitutional on October 2nd by the Michigan Supreme Court. But even after the Supreme Court ruling, the Attorney General continued to prosecute Carl, Marlena, and yours truly. We have a lot of ground to cover today, so let's get to testimony. I'd like to welcome Carl Mankey up to the stand. And Carl, you can start whenever you'd like.
Here.
Yes. So Mr. Mankey, if you could please present like your timeline for what the events of 2020, how it began during the government's response to COVID.
The first I heard that there was going to be some type of shutdown by our governor, Whitmer, was that it was in March. And it was going to be a 2-week shutdown. And she was going to utilize her 28 days, I believe it was, to negotiate whatever the law required from the legislature that she could rule by executive order through that period. And then at the end, which was I believe it was somewhere just before the 1st of March, April. It was the 1st of May, went through April. I closed for a couple of weeks. I stretched it out a little bit to begin with because I wasn't certain that the orders that she was giving were really constitutional. I began to get the sense, that as a governor, I felt, and still do, that a governor's primarily function is to ensure that whatever the legislature passes laws and the judicial system upholds, is that she will ensure that all of us enjoy all of our constitutional rights. And I was beginning to get the feeling that that wasn't the case here. And then at the end, when she decided that she was going to rule by executive order and defy the state legislature, that was when I decided that she was no longer governing. And a rule was not in something that I was going to give over to very readily. And so I made that decision that I'm going back to work. I needed to go back to work for one thing. I mean, I'm a barber by profession, by trade. I've been a barber, Sunday, I 64 years behind the chair this last Sunday. So I've spent some time, as a barber. It's been my entire adult life. That's how I make my living. I still have, some time, I'm not retired. I still like working, and I enjoy working, and I need to work. We don't get a retirement as barbers. You make your own, whatever you want to do. And so, I felt that I needed to go back to work in order to sustain and uphold so that our credit rating did begin to be suffering as a result of not being able to pay bills. So I did. I went back to work. And I recall it was a Monday that I went back in. Friday I decided that I was going to go. And hadn't been in church for I don't know how many weeks it was. It was all closed up. Hadn't had communion, and I don't know how long it was, about 5, 6 weeks, whatever it was, that they decided they weren't going to allow anybody in the church. I called my parish, and they agreed that they would give my wife and I a private communion. I was going to go back to work. They didn't know that I was going to go back to work. And we did. We went and had communion. And then when they discovered that I was going back to work, and I was defying the governor, is when all hell broke loose in the church. That I was now defying God's order, where God had placed our governor in place to govern, and I was breaking the law. And I tried to point out that I wasn't breaking the law at all, that she was breaking the law. And I continued with that concept. And I remember going to work that Monday morning, and it wasn't that I didn't have fear. I did. There was some fear, some trepidation there, because it was kind of an unknown area for me. But, you know, I've been accused oftentimes of being maybe a little bit over the top, a little bit assertive, and maybe pushing the edge a little bit hard. And I don't mind that. And I don't mind being called some type of a rascal, but to walk that path of a coward was something I just could not do. I couldn't see myself operating that way as a coward. You know, not standing up for what I believe, to be true, to be right. It was an intuitive thing. You know, we have inalienable rights. And I never really, during that whole period, never felt bad or even criticized our governor for getting her hair done, or for wanting to get her boat in the water, or for visiting her ill father in Florida. Those were all, matter of fact, I praised her for those because she was acting in a normal way. She was practicing her inalienable rights. What I took issue with was when she denied me the same right. That was when I began to say, there's something wrong here. There's something wrong with this. And I dug in a little bit, my heels a little deeper. So that began the whole process. I would hear things along the way, like I recall one morning, it was on a second morning, it was a Tuesday. And I had made the comment that I would close if Jesus came, or if I walked out in handcuffs. That would be the way I would close. And I remember that morning, I was cutting a guy's hair, and I made a little turn, and there standing in my doorway was one of the sheriff deputies. All 6'2" or 3 or 4 of him. I know him well. And he looked at me. I told the guy in the chair, I said, "That ain't Jesus." I said, "I think I'm going out in handcuffs." And the sheriff's deputy turned to me and he says, "Carl, look at me." And I did one of these little slant looks. He says, "I love you." And he turned around, got in his car, and drove off. And I felt then that I had a level of support that I had never known I had at that time. At that point, I was still standing alone, which I'm willing to do. I'm willing to stand alone. Those are the kind of things that that coward part of me doesn't want to be a coward. I'll take that, whatever it is. I'll stand alone, providing my principles are intuitive, in position, and in line with our Constitution and my inalienable rights. So from that point on, I felt a little more secure. And then I got word that there's a possibility that I was going to be arrested. And then I also got word through the grapevine that our sheriff at that point was not going to allow them to put me in his jail. And I'm thinking, oh God, they're going to send me up to Marquette and put me in some cell up there with a COVID guy or something, so, just to get even. but they never happened. I had that week, I had the Wausau Police Department come in and issue me a citation ticket for breaking the law. They never really told me what law it was, but they told me I had a ticket. And then I had the state police, I think there was about 5 or 6 of them, marched up to my door, and all in pretty much outfitted, you know, ready for action. They had all kinds of vests on and all kinds of stuff they were wearing. It looked like it was a riot squad of some type. My shop was packed at that time with families. And I can remember there was a mom, she had quadruplets, four kids. And they were bouncing around in the barber shop. And here's these, you know, state cops in there. And they're issuing me a cease and desist order. I offered them all a haircut and told them, you know, if you guys want to sit down, I'm not going to cease and desist. I'll tell you that now. But if you do want a haircut, go ahead and sit down and I'll take care of you. Well, that wasn't within their, you know, their parameters. They were going to do that. So they left me with my orders. Following day, I had Nestle's AG. I had her guys come in. 2 nice guys, really. You know, they were really polite. But they were there to remind me that I was breaking the law. But again, I didn't ever hear what law I was breaking. I just heard I was breaking the law. So I thanked them for that and offered them a haircut also. And they, of course, they declined and left. It went on for somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 3 or 4 weeks before the Supreme Court took that case and ordered the governor and the AG to return my license. I didn't even know that I didn't have a license. I was still working. I didn't understand that I didn't have a license. No, nobody ever told me I didn't have a license.
Carl, if I could interrupt and ask, so are you saying that you did not receive notice or a hearing before your barber license was suspended?
Not that I know of. I had an attorney at that time, and I never heard from him that I had lost my license. You know, I just heard that, you know, through the grapevine that I was now getting my license back from the Supreme Court. It came back 7-0 in my favor. And then at that point, I thought, okay, this is fine. You know, we kind of celebrated a victory there. But then before I knew it, I was now under the watchful eye of the health department. They don't come under the same, I understand, the same guidelines that the executive department does. So they were charging me now that I had a comb in my pocket. They saw it on TV. And they decided that at that point that, you know, that was a $1,500 fine. Normally that would have been, you know, an eighth amendment. You know, that's the amendment against excessive fines but they paid no attention to that. They knew it would cost me probably 20 grand to fight the case.
So Mr. Menke, what I think that you're telling me is that you didn't have an inspector come into your barber shop and make that inspection and fine you for having the comb in your pocket like they typically would do?
No, nobody
They
came
saw
to
it
my
on TV?
shop. Nobody came in to inspect it. I had some hair on the floor. They charged me $1,500 for that. And when I cut hair at the Capitol steps instead of our wonderful governor's office, that was $6,000. That must have really upset her more than I thought. That was more than
It's excessive.
all of them put together. So I paid $9,000 out of pocket, you know, for fines. It went to the Court of Appeals. I mean, it was almost like a open and shut case. Now they just supported the health department. You know.
Bring us to Operation Haircut and your participation in Operation Haircut. I was cited. I was charged that day with a misdemeanor. I was actually the first one cited. However, the police avoided you that day.
Oh, they did. They walked around me.
Yes. And you were cited, you were later fined for that. How many months after the fact?
Oh gosh, it was maybe a year. Maybe it was when the health department finally got around to deciding what they were going to do.
Mm-hmm.
They charged me, you know, violating health codes. You know, well, I remember I tried to make it light as I could of that, but you know, I was on Fox News a few times, and I remember the Steve Ducey that morning after I was, you know, told that I was being charged with $1,500 for that comb in my pocket. He said, well, I understand you had that comb in your pocket. And I said, well, yes, it should have been in the sterilizer. I said, I understand that. I do have, occasionally I have people come in my shop and they have like a hairball stuck in their throat, and I need that comb as a tongue depressor, and it needs to be sterilized at all times. You know, so that kind of left me with a little bit of, But it was ironic, you know, I tried to make as light as I could out of it, be as ironic as I could with the whole situation.
Well, your story is inspiring because you defied what we suspected was wrong and what our government was doing. Abuse of power, weaponization of state government. This is the definition of weaponization of state government. You stood defiant against an unjust order. You were targeted for it, fined excessively, denied your due process. Where are you now? And how did this affect your personal life and your family going through this immense amount of stress?
Well, you know, my wife is different than I am, as you know, we all have our different, and she really took it hard, you know, because she was fearful. There were being threats on my life, you know, that we had, you know, people were, you know, it would be better that I was dead, you know, that I had given some, state police had investigated a few of these, one of them, and I remember in particular, this guy said that I gave his wife COVID. Well, when they investigated him, he was a 79-year-old man from someplace out of Minnesota or somewhere, and he didn't have a wife, but he, you know, needed to express himself in the most egregious way that he could toward me, you know, let me know how bad I was. So I had threatened had given his wife COVID, and you know, so it was stressful. It was stressful for her. I made up a little differently, and those are the kind of things that really I find them more as an opportunity, as a challenge to be able to face those kind of things, face tyranny, you know, and that's what I saw it as. It was tyranny. Decisions being made out of thin air with nothing behind them. I could go on and on about some of the people that I met that were from Moderna. You know, I had met one pulmonologist from Moderna. He gave me the inside scoop on what was going on with how that came about. That was never, he said, that was never a vaccination. He said, we've had this since 2005, 2006.
And if I can ask, so do you believe that Attorney General Nessel cherry-picked your case in any way to score points with her base or to motivate her base? And how did her public attacks on you as a lawbreaker damage your reputation?
Well, you know, half the country is on the left, or at least not quite half, you know, is on the left. And I don't have those people as clients anymore. You know, they avoid my shop, you know, like the plague. You know, that's I don't have those people coming in my shop any longer. I can't remember. Oh, I had a whole, you know, I had a cross section of people. I tried to keep, you know, politics as much as I could, but, you know, just the discussion of it, you know, kind of an even ebb. I would stay out of it if people were, you know, beginning discussion in my shop. Tried to anyway, and maybe moderated a little bit. But after that, when I stood my ground, and they became very fearful of me, you know, that I was a voice that was penetrating areas that they felt very uncomfortable having penetrated. So, you know, I like this, some of these little quotes, you know, and this one came from, oh my gosh, it came from ancient times. And when I think of oftentimes of our president, you know, the same way, but fate whispered to the warrior, you can't withstand the storm. And the warrior whispered back, I am the storm. And this is what I feel now, you know, as a conservative, is that I am the storm. And there's a fear. There's a fear there of this voice, because it's a very powerful voice. It's intuitive in a sense, you know, that it speaks from the soul. So freedom and liberty You know, we have become one of the greatest nations in the world. And the reason why we have become great, in the book of Genesis, it says that man was created in the image of God. I don't believe that means we had arms and legs and, you know, these kind of things like God, but I do think we share with God an ability to create. I don't care what you look at in this room, or wherever you look at anywhere in this country, everything was preceded with a creative thought. And we have remained free here to create. And we've become the greatest nation in the world as a result of this freedom that we have in our Constitution. Inalienable right. The Declaration of Independence wasn't something that gave us freedom, it declared our freedom. The Declaration, it declared it. We already knew we had it. And this was our founding fathers were very much aware that intuitively our souls know this. So we remain creative in this country. And when I see someone trying to buffer that or trying to limit that, then I get a little bit upset.
Thank you. So I'd like to open up for questions from the committee now.
Okay.
Representative Wolford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Carl, first, thank you for being here today. As someone that sits on multiple oversight committees, it's very difficult to find people brave enough to come and testify. I'm sorry that you had a government that let you down. And my question for you, I want to make a statement, and then my question for you will be, how did the state's response to your actions affect your faith and your ability to worship God? And before you answer, I will say, out of all the religions in the world, the only faith, Christianity is the only faith that comes into the presence of their God through praise and worship, through song. And we had a government that specifically singled out those people, that belief system, and told them that they could not, even if going to church, could enter into the presence of their God because they would be a super spreader of sinning. So my question to you, sir, is how did this affect your faith, knowing that you had a governor, you had a government restricting your religious rights and freedoms? And then lastly, I will say, you had mentioned that your church had misquoted scripture in saying that the government has more authority than the Word of God. The Word of God trumps all of man's laws. So with that said, sir, thank you for being here, and how did this affect your faith personally?
Well, you know, at that I'm going to be 83 this year. At that time, I was 77. And I had a long life of faith. So I had a good foundation. You know, I did miss it. You know, I missed it because communion to me, you know, that's, you know, given for you type of thing. That's the whole essence of my faith is the communion. And I wasn't getting that. You know, I had other areas that I could stand on, you know, with my faith. It wasn't just dependent upon that, but that was the thing that strengthened it. There was a prayer that I used. God, grant me the serenity to accept those things I cannot change. Courage to change those things that I can. And the wisdom to know the difference. It's the old serenity prayer. I use that prayer almost on an hourly basis. I remember going to work that morning, screaming at myself, courage, courage, because this is what I needed at that time, and always do. It's courage. And I knew that God was with me in that sense. I was praying, you know, I knew intuitively that my soul was at one with God at that, you know, at that point. Freedom and liberty isn't just something that, you know, we learn. You know, I was the middle child, and I remember my older sister. Even, you know, at 6, 7 years old, I can still recall letting her know, "You're not my boss." You you know, this is something that I was very much aware that I had freedom and liberty of mind, even at 6, 7 years old, even as a young child. So that courage to express that, you know, I needed that. So my prayer life really picked up. But I missed that part of communion, you know, given for you, where that host is given to you, and our Christ is given for you.
Thank you for your response to that. And it troubles me to think that just this last year in the state of Michigan, we had 144 children who died, that Child Protective Services should have investigated their death, and they dropped the ball on that, yet you were held accountable for concealing a cone. Appreciate you being here. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Palhusky.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I was serving during this time, so I appreciate the refresher on some of the timeline, things like that. Based on what I quickly had to look back up, because some of the dates all blend together, the Supreme Court ruled that those executive orders were not constitutional in October, correct?
I think it was in June.
It was October. Sorry, that was a rhetorical question. But anyway, so I guess my question is, with the understanding that ultimately the executive order extension that was used in some of these cases was determined to be unconstitutional, is your position that all offenses for laws that are ultimately overturned should go unchecked, unpunished, or there should be no consequences for those things?
All laws?
So, I mean, we currently have people who are in prison for marijuana offenses, but marijuana is legal in the state of Michigan. So,
Well, I think each one of those cases, needs to be taken individually and looked at. What the circumstances around that case was. I'm not going to, just paint a brush over a whole bunch of cases and say, well, yeah, I think each case had its own merit.
and your case has been looked at by courts subsequently, like going all the way into like 2022, correct?
What's that now?
Your case has been re-examined subsequent to 2020, including going into 2022, correct?
Probably, I think we were looking for a, what do you call it, the state of, Court of Appeals.
And what was the outcome of those, or any?
Well, what happened was that once that 7-0 came back, it was turned over to the health department, which has come under the same rulings. And they looked at that comb in my pocket, which they never sent anybody in my shop. I mean, it was one of these things where I had the sense that they were just whatever it took. We are under an emergency situation here, and whatever it takes. And that was the mindset that I saw, was that, that comb was, normally it would have been like, don't do that, give you 2 warnings, and then it'd be like maybe a $50 or $100 fine. But this was $1,500.
But what did the courts say?
The court said they agreed with the health department, just upheld their decision.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's highly unusual
Pardon me?
to be fined $1,500 for a comb. In the 25 years that I've been in the industry, we've had 1 inspection, and there was someone had hair in their clippers, and they were simply told, this is a warning. I've never heard of anyone getting such a fine, especially $1,500 for something that they didn't even see during an inspection, but they saw during a media interview where you were challenging our Attorney General and her targeting of you for defying an executive order. So, Representative Schreiber?
Do we know the names of the individuals at the health department that did all of this to you?
My attorney probably has that list of names. I never received them.
Okay, because the health department is kind of it's kind of a mystical concept. But these people they have names, the people who did this to you, they have names, and what they did was wrong, and that's where we need to exercise our power in order to hold them to account for what they did to you. And so that's something that, Madam Chair, I believe we should look into, to be able to find those names, work with your lawyer to be able to find who are these people. Because you could have another person in that same exact position in the health department and not make that decision. But the people who were in there at that time, they did, and what they did was wrong. And so we really need to do everything in our power to make right and hold them to account. That's an action item. I appreciate you coming here to redress your grievances and exercise your First Amendment. It's just insane what has happened to you in terms of being fined for having a comb in your pocket and being seen with a comb in your pocket on TV. That's just one of the most insane. I've been in government now for a few years, so I've seen some insane things, but this is one of the most insane things I've seen. And I'm so sorry that this has happened to you. I did want to talk to you a little bit about your mention of how this has impacted your faith. And your testimony really, to me, is twofold in terms of your persecution and your ability to run your business and earn a living and provide for your family, but also to pursue Christ and to be in his body. And you mentioned communion as being vital, and so, and you don't have to answer this, but just to get to the point, I just want to ask, are you Catholic?
No, I'm Lutheran.
Okay. Do you believe in transubstantiation?
Well, I believe that it's the true body and blood of Christ.
Okay. Would you say that by removing your ability, Whitmer, removing your ability to receive the body and blood of Christ, that she attempted to insert herself and divide you from your God?
Whether it was intended or whether it was just by the way, yes. The result was the same.
And this is not meant to detract from your the persecution that you endured as a business owner, but this is to highlight the point that you brought up in your faith. What would you say is more important to you, your connection with Christ or your ability to earn money?
Well, my ability, my human side says, well, I'm going to get hungry. But my soul side says, yeah, but you need Christ. So this is, there's a mind, there's a body, and there's a soul in each one of us. So to overemphasize any one of those, but to have them in consort, so my body does need, my soul lives in the body. When it decides it can't live there anymore, it's going to leave. I got one foot in the grave and the other on a banana peel now. I'm going to be 83 this year.
I love that phrase too, by the way. So I hate to interject, but I need to, for the sake of time. So I had one final question for you, Carl, and then we're going to move on to Marlena. How much did it cost you, essentially, in legal fees and fines out of pocket?
Well, $90,000 altogether.
$90,000.
Wow.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Carl.
Oh, I'm dismissed.
You're good. You are dismissed. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to call Marlena Acme now. She is the owner of Marlena's Bistro, and your attorney is joining us. Okay, wonderful, thank you. So it's my understanding that you also have a PowerPoint presentation?
I do.
Great. We can get started. You can get started with your presentation, or you can run through your timeline of events, whatever you wish, however you would like to proceed.
All right.
Just turn your red button on for your microphone.
I'm sorry. Okay. My name is Helen Brickman. I represent Marlena Pavlos-Hackney. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you here today. Representative Schreiber, I want to start out by addressing your comment earlier. You, as the legislature, must recognize that our freedoms are the greatest thing that we have. The problem with the health department and what the legislature has done in putting the power in a non-elected administration is that you have abdicated your responsibility as legislators, elected officials, to allow unelected persons to control business, religion, everything else. We fail to recognize the beauty of freedom. The beauty of freedom is if somebody wants to jump out of an airplane with just a piece of fabric tied to their back, and they think that's wonderful, if they become a puddle on the ground, the only person who pays for that foolishness or lack of discretion or whatever you want to call it, I call it freedom, the only person who pays for that is the fool who did it. Here, by authorizing unelected persons to create a nanny state saying you will do what we say, you deprive us of the freedom and the happiness that comes with it. I'm not that fool that wants to jump out of that plane, but that's on them. And you may say, well, geez, foolishness can cause injury to innocent persons. And I'm sure that's what the governor believes she was doing, and the Department of Health and Human Services. But, to deprive someone of the right to hold their child while they're dying, while the governor goes and does the same thing, when they do these things that they say are protecting us, yes, someone can get hurt by someone else's foolishness, but we take that choice. We make that decision every day we get on the road. And there's a judicial system that will take care of those reckless, negligent, and criminal behaviors, right? If the negligence or those things hurt another person, we already have a system in place. So that's all I wanted to say regarding this. This is the sign that Marlena put on her restaurant door. She warned her customers beforehand that if they came in, they're not going to enforce the mask. They're not going to. She says your health is your responsibility. We're not going to make you wear masks. We're not going to social distance. So no one was in danger. People went in there of their own free choice. Do I need to direct how the slides go, or can I do it from there?
Actually, if we could start with Marlena's story first and then get into the slides, that might be more helpful, because
Okay.
that way people will have the background before we get into the visual.
Okay.
So if Marlena, if you could start from the beginning when, I want to hear your story. I want you to tell the story to the people.
Well, when the COVID began, of course, the first time, I followed like everyone else. I closed my business. I was following all the rules and regulations. I was sad because I was unable to see my customers, and whatever happened, I wasn't aware of what's going on. But after, when we were able to reopen, which was in June, I was all excited, and I remember Governor Whitmer, she postponed. First she says it's supposed to be in May, then she postponed for another week. Finally, we were able to open, so I reopened. We were having business open with some restrictions, which I also had a sign on my door saying, this is my sign before. That's a different sign at the beginning, which says, those in our lovely government have ordered all persons entering indoor facilities to wear masks. If you have medical condition that prevents you from wearing a mask, you are exempt from this order. Due to HIPAA and Fourth Amendment, we cannot legally ask you about your medical condition. And this was my first sign. I also have this sign that says, if you have a fever, so on. So I try to comply with all the rules. But after, when she decided to close the business again, I decided I'm not gonna close my business. That's my unalienable right to provide for my family and be able to pay my bills, everybody told me, you can get the loan or the government funds, they give you free money. And I told them, I don't want any free money. I want to be self-sufficient, self-sustained, and be able to pay my bills on my own. For that reason, I decide I will not comply. I will have my business open. I have people who participate. I have a sign on my door that I aware people to know how I operate, which is the sign right there, which you can read, that we are not interfering on anyone unalienable rights. By law, we do not follow any of the governor, mayors, health departments, or government agency orders or suggestion, parenting to social distancing or wearing masks. Your health is your responsibility. So I have this sign, and as you know, they don't agree with my operation. So on December 4, I received visit from the health department, and they give me papers to do corrective action plan, which I respond, and I tell them about my Fourth Amendment rights, and they validate my rights. And I also ask them that they took oath of office, that they will uphold the Constitution to protect we the people, constitutionally protected rights, but they don't like this response. So next thing I know, they come and serve me with cease and desist paper on the 12th of December. So I had two ladies from the health department came to my business with 2 Holland police officers. 2 police were outside, 2 inside. My place was full of customers. We do not follow any guidelines that government suggests. And they tell me that they are here serving me cease and desist. And my response to that was, I respect you as a human being. I understand that Governor Whitmer and Dana Nessel give you this dirty job to delivery to do this job, but this is my constitutional protected rights, and I'm not gonna follow these mandates that they try to force. And I say, you're trespassing on my property, and I can call the cops, but since you have those 2 police officers with you, would you please escort those ladies from my promise? And the 2 Holland police officers, yes ma'am, but we have to send you the papers. I took the papers, I said thank you very much, and they left. They didn't arrest me, they didn't close the restaurant, they let me run. Then secondly, I received a phone call from the state police. Told me, I respect your sign, I didn't come to your building, but please, you have to stop because you're gonna face penalties that the government wants you to follow. I say, I'm sorry, sir. I don't commit any crime. I'm here to serve my community, and I didn't do nothing wrong, and I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. Thanks you for your hospitality, for your call that you didn't come, but I'm gonna keep going. So next thing I know, I have a court date. That was in February 1st. This was my first hearing with Laura Bendel-Still, attorney. This was administrative judge. It was 5 hours hearing through Zoom, and I tried to explain about my rights. I even read Declaration of Independence, and I tell them that what they try to do is unconstitutional. So after that hearing, 11 days after, I received answer from this judge with her opinion, which she summarily suspended my license, but was based because I didn't follow the government order. So I had 60 days to appeal, and they didn't wait 60 days. I had another hearing with another judge. This time this judge was from Ingham County Circuit Court Her name is Wanda Stoic. And in
Can
this,
I interject for a second? So your establishment is in Holland, you live in Holland?
yes.
But yet the judge was in Ingham County? Can you
Yes.
explain why that is?
The reason is my business is in Allegan County. And no one will prosecute me or arrest me because they know what's unconstitutional. Even when I have this, I want to go further after, but when I receive a bench warrant for my arrest, that I have to, because this will happen on the 4th, I received this is the second hearing I have, I received bench warrant for my arrest with no bond. At that point, I was trying to reach out for help. I called Holland police, I said, I need your help. They wanted to arrest me. They told me this is Holland, City of Holland, which my business is in City of Holland, but also is Allegan County. So they told me I had to reach out to Allegan County Sheriff, which I did. My husband, he go and talk to him directly, and he says, my wife facing that they're gonna arrest her and she's gonna go in jail. I want you to stop the arrest. And Judge Frank Becker, Allegan, Sheriff of Allegan, told my husband, we will not arrest her, but if the state will come, we will cooperate, which was no too. They should protect us. But his statement was he will not arrest me. Holland said we will not arrest you. I called Frank Becker. I called also another sheriff because I live in different county. Allegan, next to Allegan is Ottawa County, and I live in Ottawa County. So I called Mr. Kemper, I forgot his first name, but he's a sheriff. His last name is Kemper. I called and I said, Mr. Kemper, please call me back. I need your help because they wanted to arrest me. He never called, he never talked to me back. But through FOIA, I know he refused to arrest me also. So, because of this, not cooperating with the government, Dana Nessel and Whitmer office, they don't want to be part of this because they know that it's a constitutional protected right, that we have the right to work and provide for us freedom. I am business owner. I own my business for 25 years. I care for safety of my customers. You can look through my all the visits from the health department that I don't have any violation. It was minor. So I care about healthy code to follow. But those mandates to make me force people to do something, I did not agree. And every human being has got the right to do so. So, I'm sorry, I lost my track.
No, you're good. You're good. So so did they issue a warrant
Yes.
for your arrest?
So the next thing,
What were the charges, Marlena? What were they charging you for?
they charged me, well, maybe Helen, she can help me.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, it was failing to comply with the COVID-19 mandates. The masking, social distancing, that was the sole basis for the license.
Who gave that authority?
Dana Nessel's office.
Okay. Do you feel that Marlena was unjustly targeted because of her
Yes.
outspokenness towards Dana Nessel during this time?
Yes, so what we have on the screen right here is on October 2nd, our Supreme Court issued an order saying those mandates were illegal.
Right.
Specifically said that the governor didn't possess the authority and that it was an unlawful delegation out under the statute. So yes, at the time that this is occurring to her, the governor and Dana Nessel, I want you to know this, Dana Nessel on October 4th told everyone on Wood TVA, which is located where she is, that she would no longer prosecute. So she's proceeding after hearing this Dana Nessel saying, well, no, it's unconstitutional, we won't be prosecuting anymore, and all of a sudden this is happening. If you want to hear her to continue, otherwise I can go on with, I would like to talk about how this proceeded.
Yeah, why don't we go with that? Yeah.
Okay, all right, so she's correct. I'm gonna back this up a minute.
Okay.
Well, no, let's go forward. So the Supreme Court of our state says no. Dana Nessel acknowledges in her jurisdiction, on her TV and newspaper, no longer are we permitted to enforce these mandates by the governor. Well, here's another one. She does it on social media. They're not going to prosecute. So, our Supreme Court also, in a separate opinion, where the House of Representatives sued the governor and said, no, you don't have authority under the statutes we've enacted to do what you're doing. Supreme Court, we want you to shut the governor down. And the Supreme Court did. They held the executive orders issued after that time are not in continuing legal effect. And it says, like our decision in Ray certified questions, it leaves open many avenues for our governor and the legislature to work together. Key, it's on you, not the governor, to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, nevertheless, the governor tapped MDHHS to pursue the mandates under a different statute than the one that the Supreme Court had addressed. So they did an end run around the legislature and the courts, and this is the, notice it's after, it's February 11th, the next year, that they pursue and take Marlena's license. That's where she left off. I want you to clearly see that they did it based on the MDHHS emergency orders issued after the court said that this is unconstitutional, right? Later, Dana Nessel's office will deny this. They will deny that these orders here are the basis for their prosecution for her. Again, misleading the courts, but this is clearly what it was.
Where's that slide? Where's that information from? Is that just from you, or?
This is a copy of the order of the ALJ, the administrative law judge, saying that she violated all these MDHH emergency order COVID orders. It's not based on anything else. They'll later claim that she was in violation of the food law. What food law? No, it was this. So she will later, her office will mislead courts later, but this is the order that was issued. And Dana Nessel is prosecuting this case, okay? Again, this is from the order. It says clearly that it was the MDHHS emergency order that she was being relieved of her license for violating.
So let's bring us to the arrest.
Okay, so let me show you, this is Dana Nessel's emails. This is why she was arrested.
Okay.
Okay, so what happens is she's speaking out openly about the fact that this is unconstitutional, which she has every right to do. You'll see this email is from a Jennifer Holton from MDARD, the Michigan Department of it's the thing that regulates restaurants. And she emails the governor and says, hey governor, I wanted to be sure you and flag this for you, situational awareness, as it was recently brought to my attention. Marlena and her assistants of counsel will be on national Fox News Tucker Carlson tonight. I'm happy to chat more about it, blah, blah, blah. So here the governor is notified that she's going to use her free speech rights on a national program to complain about what's going on here. All right, this is the header. I'm sorry, but if you look at the bottom, this is Dana Nessel's response. You'll see at the top it says from Dana Nessel. This is her email back. Do we know her whereabouts? We should just have her picked up before she goes on. This is outrageous.
Wow.
So she initiates her arrest. Here's the other. This is more clearly, this is on,
But can I ask a question? So
Yes.
the warrant was issued, correct? Did she have,
No.
she had so many days to turn herself in, or is that not yet?
Not quite yet.
Okay.
She wants her arrested for violating the order that you saw before, okay, that she has no license, so she's gonna go to have her arrested for violating that license.
But she wants, so the Attorney General's office is actually trying to orchestrate Marlena being picked up for exercising her First Amendment rights. That's kind of what I'm hearing.
Okay, that's why. In a courtroom, you can look at their intent based on what they say and what they do.
Okay.
she said in that email that she was going to arrest her, particularly to get her from going on Tucker Carlson. That's the initiating factor. She wants her arrested, and you'll see here, so here are some emails from the Michigan State Police after Dana Nessel tells the state police to go arrest her. This is from MSP. He's calling or emailing Captain Brown, and he says, hey, you need to determine here at the bottom, determine if there is a valid warrant. See, they don't even know that there's a valid warrant out for her at this time. Determine there's a valid warrant for the named individual. He says yes, for civil contempt of court, which is that court order that took her license. Okay.
And did they pick her up at like 5 in the morning?
Yeah, yeah. And then here's the email that confirms from MSP that Allegan County will not arrest her, nor will Holland pick her up. They knew that this was improper, okay? So then Dana Nessel also puts out there in an email trying to justify that she's had countless opportunities, yeah, that's the same one up there, to protect her community, and she's going out there against Marlena again because of Tucker Carlson. Then she sends the state police out to her house early in the morning, just like you say. They trap her in her driveway, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, they trap her in the driveway.
So what happened, March 19th, this was my day of my arrest. I follow my routine, which they have civilians on my house before that, so they know my routine, they know everything about me, my husband, housing, what time I go to work. So 5:15, I'm leaving my house, and I have a bunch of patriots that support me, and they're gonna meet me in my establishment for breakfast early in the morning. And I'm ready to go, and gut instinct gives me this like, I'm on the Lakewood Boulevard, and I see this car parked. I say, what is it all about? So I know the car was following me, kind of instinct that something wrong, but I wasn't sure. So I go my Lakewood Boulevard 160, then usually I get Beechwood Road, but because I had gut feeling telling me that this is not right, I cross the intersection, I park in my friend's house driveway. The car who followed me go all in the back, cannot go any further. So at that point, I know I was followed. So I decide I'm not gonna go to my business, I'm gonna go back home. So I'm crossing the Beechwood Road intersection. The car who followed me was unmarked, so I don't know. It's another car on the main Beechwood Road, another car parked right there on the corner, unmarked. Soon I pass, I have a green, I didn't do any violation. I see like, police cars, lights that they want me to stop. But in my mind, I'm now in fear. I am in fear because I say, I don't know who those people are. Do they try to kidnap me or what? I say, I have to make safe to go home. So I keep driving, recurring to the speed. I didn't speed, but I made it safe to my driveway. And should I pull in my driveway, I had 5 police cars. I don't know, police cars, maybe one was police, but was 5 cars. I was in my car, and I stopped, and police officer at that time was having uniform. He told me, "You under arrest," and I request that I would like to see the warrant. He told me they have a warrant, but they cannot show me. It's on the computer. They're gonna show me after, but they have to arrest me. So I hesitate. I say I need a minute to unwind. I have anxiety attacks. I have to think, which he let me. He was nice. I asked him what's gonna be, and they told me like this. Usually what happened, you should be launched in your country, but because we have direct order from Dana Nessel, we are picking you up and we're gonna take you direct to Ingham County Jail. So my husband, he see something going on, he come up with his rope, he talked to the police officer, he says that he would like to follow me because they tell me that they're gonna arrest me, they're gonna take me to jail in Ingham County. So they didn't follow the restrictions. And the officer who come and arrest me wasn't even from my country, was from Kalamazoo area. I live in Ottawa, which is different country, so by right, I should have Sheriff Kemper launch me in his jail and then transfer me to Lincoln County. But they breach. They don't follow. They don't have the rules to follow. Government have the right to do whatever they want. So they take me to this jail, they handcuffed me. He was good enough, he allowed me to have a warrant, so I praise him for that. I praise him that he handcuffed me in the front, not in the back. So praise God that he was halfway decent. And they told me I had to wear a mask in the police car, and I refused. I say under HIPAA and for amendment, I'm excluded, and I will not wear a mask. He allowed me. So here I'm in a police car, I don't have to wear a mask. I went to jail, the same thing. I say under HIPAA for amendment, I'm not gonna wear a mask, they let me. But in my establishment, they're gonna force me, where I am the taxpayer, I pay for the licenses fee, I pay for all the fees I have to pay, and they're gonna dictate what I can do or not I can do in my business.
What
So-
else, Marlena, what else were you subjected to in the jail as part of your intake for this?
When I get arrested, or when I went to jail, they took my phone, they did cavity search. They also showed me this video that what can happen sexually to me when I'm in jail. And if something happened that I have to go on screen and press the button, give some words that they will investigate. Then they also take me to the room and they ask me, are you sexually vulnerable? Are you bi? And some other all weird questions, and they want me to sign. I answer, but in my mind I'm thinking, do I'm here for breaching the law, or I'm here to perform some sexual activity? So I was scared. They dressed me, they put me in a cell, which was cold, the heat was broke, so I had a really cold room. I asked for help, that they can help me, and they say, sorry, the maintenance guy will come back on Monday, and it was Friday. I had one of the colleagues, guard ladies, they give me long sleep, so I can.
It was on a Friday, correct? You were
Yes, this was
arrested
on
on
Friday,
Friday morning?
yes.
Okay, so there was no possible really way to get you out all weekend,
No.
right?
Then also, you know, when I had my arraignment, they shackled me when they took me from the jail, and they bring me to arraignment in the courtroom to face my arraignment. They shackled me, they handcuffed me. I was like, wow, I can't believe that this happened to me. What
I remember
have
the
done?
bruises. I remember the reports of the bruises that you had from your shackles.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
I had like 30 people from all TV stations and news, and I say, wow, what's going on? I was in shock. I mean, what happened? But the judge who had my arraignment, her name is Equalina Rosemary, she was very unpleasant and brutal, which you can see on YouTube because I request those videos. But you can see how unpleasant she was. She don't allow me to speak.
I remember.
I
So
had
for
this-
sake of time, we want to go to the slides, but I did have one more question before we get back on those slides. Because honestly, Marlena, your story is so long, so shocking, that we could probably be here all week. So we do have to compress it some, and I apologize for that. Do you feel that, do you think that you were arrested so you couldn't go on Tucker Carlson?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then if you could continue with some of those slides, and
Yes.
we do have to allow time for questions, so let's keep
Yes.
that in mind, okay?
So here's the email where it's more plain, and at the bottom it says, should I be prepared to respond to this? I hope she gets the full 93 days for this. She does get the full 93 days for it. As you see in the order at the bottom, you can barely see it, but if you have it, if you want to, it says 93 days. I have a pointer, doesn't show. 93 days, that's how long she had to get up. What was the fine?
the fine was 7.5. But then when I went to court, I had one of the police officer, he gave me this paper, he says, I think you need that. Because my attorney, at that time I had a different attorney, he was aware about 7.5, but the total fine that they wanted is 15,000.
15,000. So they fined her $15,000, and she could not get out of jail until she paid the $15,000. Her husband did everything he could to get that money as fast as he could, but she still spent 3 days in jail. So, 4 days, I'm sorry.
Is this typical, is this a typical kind of hearing and recommending for sentencing and stuff like this for
This is the
kind of
max.
offense?
In fact, it's beyond the max, as I'll show you. The $15,000 was appealed, the fines, and the Court of Appeals sent it back and said, you've doubled this. You've got to do something with the rest of those fines. And
It
I'm
should
gonna
be
show you.
$7,500, or 7,500 was the.
Was the
appropriate
max.
amount. But that was the max.
7,500 is the max,
Okay.
right? So, but they overdid it. Now, the legislature was the only branch of government that came to her rescue. The House at that time sent a letter to Dana Nessel specifically telling her to quit the political harassment and persecution of Marlena. That should and again, Senator Mike Shirkey was the one who tweeted it out. Meantime, legally in a courtroom, a jury can take and determine an intent of an individual based on not only what they say, but what they do and how they do it. Here, I only point this out that Governor Whitmer is seen not masking, not social distancing at the Land Shark Bar in Lansing during the same time period, and the Land Shark Bar was not charged, nor was Governor Whitmer chastised in any way. Land Shark just got free publicity. She got jailed, fined to the max. Another
10 minutes we're breaking for questions.
Okay, so this is important because another restaurant in the state of Michigan also rebelled and was charged by Dana Nessel. But poor Marlena didn't realize the reason she ended up, that the AG sent the Lansing State Police, because the local state police would not arrest her and no one else would. She sent officers from Lansing to go arrest her and bring her all the way into Lansing's jurisdiction, I believe for a reason. But she had the right to relocate that decision back to Ottawa County, but she didn't have counsel who was.
What do you think that reason is?
The reason that they're allowed to do that?
The reason that they moved her here?
I can only speculate, but yeah. My suspicion, and I'm allowed to have a suspicion, is because the same judge, Aquilina, was the same judge who prosecuted this case as well. This is the Iron Pig restaurant up in Otsego County. Their attorney was smart enough to move that case, by statute, it's allowed, back to their own county.
And they did.
And they did, and this is the order where that judge held that this was unconstitutional under the new rule that Governor Whitmer asked the MDHHS to employ. So, he signs that on January 13th of 2022.
That case is now closed.
Now, closed. Now what happens is the Attorney General then says, oh, no, we're gonna appeal this, not to the Court of Appeals, which is the next step, but to the Supreme Court, because they will back us up on this. We have the right to do this. This is the order on the same thing, the Iron Pig case, where the Supreme Court said, you go through the regular thing, you go to the Court of Appeals and see if you can overcome this. They say, no, we're not gonna hear it. So, Attorney General says, oh, the Supreme Court's not gonna back me up? The next thing you know, there was some dissent, I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna move ahead here a minute. The next thing
While you're moving ahead, so I know several restaurants that were open during the pandemic, and this is just such an extreme case.
Well, here's what happens, and this shows what Dana Nessel was thinking. When she realized the Supreme Court was not going to overturn Otsego's order, that it was unconstitutional, she had no recourse but to go to pursue it through the Court of Appeals. This is an order on December 12th of 2022 where she stepped away from that. She didn't want the Court of Appeals to say, no, the Supreme Court said it's unconstitutional. This is Dana Nessel. The court orders that the applicant's motion for voluntary withdrawal of its appeal, that's Dana Nessel, voluntarily withdrawing her appeal so that no court was going to say that MCL 333.2253 is unconstitutional as well. She backed off of that and she continued to pursue Marlena. So, getting back, so when she had a different attorney, I stepped in and I said, this is unconstitutional. We're gonna file a motion in circuit court. This is unconstitutional. The Supreme Court says so. The AG shows up. She doesn't acknowledge that it's unconstitutional. This is Ms. Lamore from the AG's office, and she says, this is where she misleads the court. The petition was not related to the merits of why the license was revoked. Her contempt thing was solely intended to have the defendant come into compliance with the food law and not operate an establishment without a food license. That food license was revoked only because she didn't comply with the unconstitutional COVID-19 mandate. So again, they're telling the court something that is not the case. So this is my argument. I said she was not shut down for any rule under the food law. They cannot provide the court with any valid rule authorizing the government to remove her license. Without that, nothing can proceed. It's unconstitutional. And the court said, no, it's under the food law. So we had to appeal that. So anyway, but we get in front of the Court of Appeals on October 20th, 2022, and Dana Nessel's still fighting it. But they hold that the fines were illegal, they were excessive, they were doubled, and they said you must go back and you have to either refund those excessive fines to Marlena, or you can reimburse MDARD or the government. I've worked 25 years as a prosecutor. The prosecutors are paid by state tax dollars and nothing. We never take any money from the public. Well, we get back down. Oh, this is the same one. We get back down, and the AG petitions the circuit court to impose costs. No costs were initially ordered. Yet AG says, no, don't return those fines to Marlena. You reimburse us. And look what they asked. They asked, first of all, that you can see below the red lines, that, here it is, $8,580 in attorney's fees. That's to the AG's office. That doesn't happen.
How much has Marlena spent approximately on legal fees and fines thus far? Do we know?
We can calculate that for you. I don't believe, I'm working pro bono. I'm not charging any fees.
Okay.
I know that it was,
Previous I paid Robert Becker $70,000. And I had to let him go because he didn't work, like you see, change the venue and remove my court case to different. I mean, I'm not attorney, but.
And I'm sorry, with respect for time, we're gonna have to move on to some questions. So at a later date, once.
sure, may I just say that we are still in court on this issue.
Thank you.
Still.
5 years later, thank you.
Still prosecuting it.
Thank you. Mr. Rep. Kruhatsky. I know, sorry, that was the delay there, but.
That's okay, it was important to get through all of it, I appreciate it. I just had a couple of clarifying questions because I was following along with your PowerPoint. We also have it available on our computer. So when the email about the Tucker Carlson appearance was like admittedly not the way government should be operating, right? Totally agree with you there.
No.
But that was sent March 12th, correct?
Correct.
And didn't you say that the warrant had not yet been issued by them?
They never gave us, I don't have a copy of the warrant. I can show you that the emails that I showed you said that they contacted the court, or the court contacted them but that they didn't have a warrant. They had to contact the court had to tell them.
Right, and it's,
Yeah.
so according to the other records, and
Yeah,
it's scattered, like I've got like 11 different tabs open trying to
Yeah,
find
yeah.
out. So, it says that the court issued the warrant on the 5th,
Okay.
so a week prior. Courts normally, like, attorneys normally are aware that a warrant has been issued for their client, correct?
Correct, and it goes into lien.
Yes.
Okay, and so the fact that they had to ask converse with the court about it, we can only presume that they didn't find
I'm
any lien.
saying, were you the attorney at the time?
No, I was
No.
not, unfortunately.
So is it possible that the attorney was aware that there was a warrant and we just don't know that?
I can't answer that.
Okay, because that was a really broad thing. That
Yeah,
said
yeah.
that the warrant was not issued when in fact it was. You may not have been aware.
Marlena
the
was
client
not
may have
aware
been
of it. I don't believe you were.
I request for police report and still even from the state police.
Mhm.
I request because when they arrest me, I request to see the warrant and they never show me. They say they have on the computer, they gonna show me, which they never did. Then I request from the state police the copy of the incident report, and I also request video because Dana Nessel was very specific in email. She wants to have the state police, everything in workable condition, dash camera and all the civilians so they can expose to the public what happened.
Mhm.
But because things didn't go to their way, thank you God that God protects me and does right thing for right people. That's why they don't expose. But I never received the video. They told me it's classified information. I paid $250 and I still, the civil contempt, and I don't see warrant. It's like highlight, so I don't even see where is my warrant.
Yeah, no, understood,
So-
thank you. And other very quick question, Madam Chair. Is there ever a time where you can turn away the health inspector as a restaurant owner? It's been a long time since I've had to deal with health inspections in a
No.
restaurant. So
No.
is that not the initial reason that the license was suspended? And we can
My
find out the
understanding,
motivation
my
for why the
understanding
inspector was there.
is that someone saw the sign on her door and reported it to the health department, and yes, then the health department went and investigated her. No one reported any COVID. She wasn't responsible for anybody getting sick. It was
Sure.
because somebody saw the sign on her door.
Thank you,
Can I
thank
make
you.
a statement?
We're gonna move on to Representative Wolford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Marlena, thank you for being here today. I'm a Marine Corps veteran, my wife's a Marine, my daughter's a Marine, and I know veterans and those that are listening are thankful for people like you because those are the freedoms that we want to fight for. My question for you is, as you had to deal with the governor who was not following constitutional law, having to deal with the fourth fictitious branch of our government, the administrative state, my question is first, because I don't want to guess, where is your accent from?
From Poland originally.
From Poland. I recently, just a few months ago, was in Krakow, Poland, and went just a few miles down the road to Auschwitz. And so I think it's worth mentioning again, and I'm sorry to bring this up. You were unconstitutionally arrested. You were taken to jail. You had to take your clothes off. You had to have a cavity search. My question is, have you or your family ever seen conduct like this before in history? And do you see any similarities of what you went through in that?
Yes, absolutely. I will have to have more time to say what life looks like being under communist regime. That's why I escaped Poland in 1983 and I came to US in 88. I lived in Greece before I came because it wasn't like you can come here just like this. And yes, that's why I'm fighting for our God-given, unalienable rights, constitutional protected rights that we the people have, and I will do whatever it takes to fight with me and help our others that we will not allow to destroy US, that they will become communist country, because this is the greatest country in the whole world that we should be grateful and thankful. And thanks God that we have legislation like you who stand up and protect us and try to do what is right for we the people. Besides what belief, what religion, what race, what politician party they support, we all equal. And I'm hoping that we're gonna get united, and I pray for the government, Dana Nessel and Whitmer, that they're gonna have common sense and they will follow 10 Commandments, because you don't have to be a believer to know what is right, what is wrong. Respect others how you like to be respected. And this is what is my goal is. And God bless you all, and God bless us all. And I hope God control things the way they gotta be.
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair, my last quick question is, just in case I missed something, you didn't murder somebody, you didn't steal, you didn't, what was it that you did? You served food?
I serve food.
Thank you.
Really good food.
Moving to Representative Schreiber.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To your attorney, the early comment regarding the department workers.
Yes.
Let's say you have a health department worker, all these department workers that are persecuting Michigan business owners, Michigan Christians. They did. And who resolves rogue misconduct by department workers? The Attorney General. She didn't. So what? Now, that's just another item on the list where how are we going to hold her to account? And so my question to you is, you're still in court. You're still in court for this.
Yes.
And so I mean this with the utmost sincerity. What exactly is it that you seek? Because what's needed here as this list continues to grow, where the Attorney General is abusing her power, she's weaponizing the position, these resources should be going to prosecute the department workers who are violating their oath to the Constitution, and they're being misdirected at innocent people.
Yes.
And so what is it that you seek, and what can we do at this point other than to hold her to
Take back
account?
your power. Take back, this is your duty under the Constitution and no one else's. But let me just say that Ottawa County elected a whole new Board of Commissioners trying to get rid of that health department head, and they have failed because of the assistance of the government still supporting her. They couldn't, no level of government, even local, could get rid of that woman. She's still there. Help us, please.
We're here for you,
Yes.
1000%.
Thank you.
And Guadalajara? Representative Guadalajara, I mean, we're approaching, so please be very, very quick. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna ask for some leeway on this, but and I would, moving forward, I don't think we got access to the slides beforehand, so pardon me for not being as up on this as I could. So first, I just want to address multiple religions incorporate singing in their services. I just think that's important for us to recognize. Then I just want to set the tone here. In COVID, the CDC estimates that almost 2 million people died. That's far more than World War II and the Civil War. So I just think, like, giving respect to people who died from COVID is really important. So 3, I want to address, and I do have a question, I promise. The email you showed to me it's absolutely appalling, and our government shouldn't be persecuting anybody on behalf of their First Amendment rights or ignoring their Fifth Amendment rights to due process. As well as the Land Shark Bar incident, I think it's important that if we're going to be trying cases, we're trying them fairly and equally across the spectrum. So I think it's important to point out that hypocrisy. Where I'm going with this is that my understanding is the license was taken away, and we could, again, talk about motivations, not because of the violation of the order, but because of refusing food safety inspections. Is that correct?
No. It was
Okay.
because she wouldn't comply. She was in continual, if you could get the records,
Did
what
she
the
ever
health-
turn away health inspectors?
She did once, but but the health inspector saw the cars in the parking lot. She was not supposed to be open. And it was clear the health inspector was just looking to see if she was open. She could see that there were cars in the parking lot, there were people inside. So she got her information.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative.
Yeah.
Really good.
Thank you. So, in closing, I want to thank you both for being here. Mr. Menke, Ms. Hackney, it's been a privilege to have you here, and I feel like the hour and a half was far too short. There's so much to cover, and we have so many questions still, but ultimately, I can't give you an easy, quick fix to what has happened to you, but I can promise you that by having you come and speak in Oversight is why I ran for office. As many of you know, I was also cited during the COVID restrictions for testing the boundaries there and protesting against an executive order. I too was also facing prosecution after the executive order was ruled unconstitutional. My case, however, was not even remotely as severe as the penalties that you both had to endure. So my goal is to not only get your message out, get some of the facts out in the public again, because like we've said, Marlene, you are still in court. This has been 5 years, and people forget. People have a short attention span. COVID to some of us feels like it was 10 years ago, because it was such a terrible time for Michiganders, for our freedoms, for our businesses, for our kids in schools and in sports. Everything suffered. So I wanted you in here today to listen to you, to re-energize and get re-familiar with some of these things that for some of the people in the legislature did not serve during that period or had no clue what was happening because they were complying with these idiotic orders. So I'd like to see legislation introduced to rein in the power of these departments. They're not elected, and they have gotten more power than our executive branch, than our legislative branch. And it's time that we bring it in, rein it in, and put these departments where they belong and restore freedom for Michigan and put government back in its place. So I thank you for being here, and I'm all fired up now, sorry. So there'll be no further business before the committee stands adjourned.